even though we're running a business, I think this gets back to what you've been saying, which is you can't let the business decisions overwhelm what is truly in the client's best interest or what you know is just. And I think we could switch gears because you and I could spend 6 lifetimes talking about what we've been through. But let's switch gears to a segment we're going to try and bring up in a recurring fashion, which is question of the week. Episode 1 went well. We had some good listeners, some active listeners, and we got some questions. And one of the ones that you and I kept talking about, and I think we're going to talk about today, is look, you're based in Hollywood, Florida. That's where our HQ is. I live in Atlanta, Georgia, but we handle cases all over the state of Florida. And so maybe we can talk a little bit, and I'd like you to begin on what it's like trying a case outside of, let's say, the Tri-County area in South Florida, Palm Beach, Broward, and Dade, what it's like trying a case in Orange County or Orlando or further north.
Yeah, I think, every jurisdiction is unique, right? We practice predominantly in, Miami-Dade, Broward County. We have cases in Palm Beach as well. And we do have, we've tried cases in Orange County. And like I said, I think Orange County is more similar in the sense of the amount of cases that they're handling, right? So what you got.
Well, what about Lake County? I mean, look, right after the pandemic finally broke, so to speak, and trials were allowed, we went to Lake County in a case against Home Depot for an incredible woman of a client who was super patient during a very toxically litigated case. But maybe you can share what that was like. Neither of us had tried a case up there.
Right. Yeah, we hadn't tried a case in Lake County. We cycled through. I think we had like 3 different judges, right? And every judge has their own.
4, I think. Yeah,
maybe 4. So, look, one of the tips that I could say is look, see if the jurisdiction has very particular local rules, right? That's the only thing I can recommend. I know, for instance, and we'll come back to Lake County, but Lee County has some very particular provision. In fact, they were asked, have you read Local Rule 16.3 at a hearing? And we didn't even know that something exists. And it was about, I don't know if it was on conferral or something. Jordan, you were there, but it was like something so innocuous that it didn't really matter. But the judge wanted to just basically, because we're not from there, right? Like we're out of towners, and you haven't read this, or sometimes they have standing orders that you have to send with the subpoena and things that are So make sure you look to see, is there something specific in this jurisdiction, and then look to see, is there something specific with this judge? Every judge has their own way to do it. The judge that tried our case in Lake County, I thought he was a good trial judge, right?
Me too. I thought he was incredible in terms of his effort and energy and trying to get things right. I do.
Although he didn't think that anybody was a cause challenge. Anybody. I mean, the person's I think every plaintiff fakes an injury and they're all liars and frauds. I was like, can you be fair? No.
That was a super tough panel in jury selection.
Yeah, and he and he basically says, no, that's not a cause challenge. But the reason why he's smart, and this is why he's smart, is because I don't think we asked for an additional peremptory. He gave it, and I think we probably could have kept asking for them because it never got to a point where he denied a request for peremptory. So when I renewed my challenges to the previously raised motions, he was like, is there an actual appellate issue? Because I hadn't asked for peremptories and said, right, well, I would have used them for these particular people. And we're going to talk about preserving appellate issues in another episode. But that was an example of a judge who knows how to try a case and knows that. But then, there were some things that and obviously the case is pending on appeal. We got a result, but it was one of those good on paper. It's a win, but it's not a win for what we wanted. So.
Yeah, I think if you're even just a litigator, maybe you haven't even tried your first case yet, you're an associate somewhere, you've been working up files, touching on your different counties. I know now with Zoom, it's so much easier to be in 2 places at once or to seemingly time travel to different parts of your respective jurisdictions. But being hometown is a real thing, in my honest opinion. I think it's born of a lot of different things, many of which aren't even, full of malice or anything. It's just natural human behavior. Pre-pandemic, if you practice in a particular locale, odds are you were in and out of that courthouse regularly during motions calendar, and you probably have face-to-face with a lot of the same judges. They get to know who you are. You get to know who they are. Your friend on the other side, they get to know you. You've had cases against them, et cetera. That builds a degree of comfortability. And so I think when somebody who's foreign to that locale steps in, sometimes you stand out like a sore thumb. I had a case, more than one, in a county in a particular judicial circuit in Florida where I walked in and the bailiff was telling me, "You're not from around here, are you?" Right out of the gate, and trying to give me the rundown about how things were going to go and how things go there. You know, you got to deal with that. You got to explain to the client. And by the same token, you know, we were talking about, or I brought up in Lake County, the panel, you got to just anticipate, look, it's not just about the judge or what the opposing lawyer might do or say. Jurors, you know, they're pulled from those particular jurisdictions, and there's no broad brush that you could paint and say all people that live in this part of the state or jurisdiction are this way, but people are different. Their life experiences are different. You know, if you're up way north in a particular part of Florida, it might be more agricultural than if you're down in, let's say, Key West, right? Or even in parts of Miami-Dade County. And so you've got to be aware of these things. You have to be. You can't just treat it as, well, the law is the law and it should be applied equally and the same everywhere, because that is true. And everyone is going to do their best to apply that and make that a reality. But there are different, just practically speaking, differences in humanity that factor when you're in different jurisdictions. So for me, I'm excited when I get to go to a new jurisdiction. It's different. It adds a whole different element for me. You know, I'm a gamer. It reminds me of in my youth when I used to get to play sports and you go up against a certain different school or an institution and you've never been there before, but you've heard things. And so there's a degree of excitement for me, I'll confess, but I'd be lying if I didn't say there are times where I feel like, man, I'm getting hometown over here. But if you can overcome that and get justice for your client, that's a double win, you know?
Yeah, and I think that the ways to do that is kind of, you know, keep doing what you're doing, right? Keep presenting the good arguments, keep presenting the good law, keep being, you know, kind of like we talked about being the voice of I can't even think right now, like not the voice of reason, it's of credibility, right? And so if you have credibility with the court, you present good arguments, you present good facts, and you continue to do that, eventually I feel like you can break down even the largest hometown barrier, because at the end of the day, these are judges, they are people, but they also want to be right.
Right.
You know? And so I think that, you know, that's a way you can do it. And the last one, really, get in the JAs. What I've found in like smaller jurisdictions are fantastic, because they're the ones really not running the show, but there's a lot of personal interaction, you know, especially if you're in a smaller jurisdiction where like you need to set a hearing. They don't have advanced, you know, JAX system or, you know, court map to go in and find. No, you call the JA and say, hey, look, can I get some hearing dates? So
yeah, this is, by the way, that's judicial assistance for sure. And I know in a future episode, we're going to just talk very specifically about having good support staff like paralegals and legal assistants, which is why we didn't touch on it today. But I totally agree with you. Get familiar.